Hi, Hannah.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited to chat.
Me too. Thank you for asking me. I'm so excited. We're gonna like sit and chill and yap, and it's gonna be great.
We're going to do it all. All right. So today I'm chatting with Hannah Kevitt. Hannah made her Broadway debut in Back to the Future, and she's currently in Maybe Happy Ending. Welcome to the pod. I'm actually so excited to talk about everything about you. I can't wait to hear about your two shows. They are my favorite things that's ever happened to Broadway.
Oh, wait, I'm so honored. Yeah, there's some good ones. I'm really grateful that I've been a part of both of them.
Yeah, huge technical shows too.
Huge.
Like I was sitting in the theater. I saw the show on Saturday.
Yeah.
No, Friday. I saw the show on Friday, and I was sitting, jaw dropped the entire time. Like couldn't pick it up. Like I was that those technical elements actually blew me away.
No, it's insane. And did you know anything about the show coming in?
I heard some of the songs on TikTok, obviously, because I
Yeah.
live on TikTok. I didn't know that much. I knew I knew it was set, I know that it was setting South Korea
Yeah.
because I'm taking two Korean classes. So I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. Like,
Cool.
do hand in hand things in my life and very randomly.
Yeah.
So I knew those elements, but I didn't know the story.
Yeah. I feel like it's so fun coming into a Broadway show because like this one is new, and it's a completely original musical. And so coming in like blind is so fun because you're like, I'm just here for the journey. So yeah, I'm so happy that you had a good time.
Yes, and the score was perfect. Michael Arden always blows me away. Like he
Yeah.
was standing in the back, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to react right now. I was like starstruck.
Yeah, he's a genius. He's just such an amazing director.
Yes, everything he does has a purpose. That's
Hmm.
something I really love about his work. Every movement means something, and
Hmm.
I think that's really powerful, especially in an original musical. Like so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So, like,
But
how did your whole theater journey start? Was there a specific theatrical experience you had that had like inspired you to begin your life in theater?
when I was like around the age of 3, I grew up in a small town in North Carolina called Hickory. But if you're like from there, you call it Hickory. Um, I to just emphasize like where I came from, like how small of a town. Like I grew up with like tractor day. Like the local high school, like you decorate your tractor and then you drive it into school that day. Like it's small and it's like no one leaves. My parents would play like Disney movies on VHS, and I loved them and I would like sing along and dance along to them. And my parents were like, okay, let's like put her in like a little theater camp. And I was terrible. I had terrible stage fright. My dad wanted me to get back on like the proverbial horse of theater. And so he was like, I'll do it with you. So we did like community theater together, because I was like so painfully shy. I didn't want to do it without my dad. And he got to like rediscover his love of theater because he did it in college.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I love my dad, and he's just like has been like both of my parents have been like amazing, wonderful, supportive cheerleaders my whole life. Even though I'm like, I want to do this thing that you guys don't know how to do, and they like are scared, but they're like, okay, whatever, well, however you want to do it, we're gonna support you and love you and give you all the tools that we know how to do. But yeah, so that's how I started on like the theater journey. My dad and I did some community theater. And then when I was 12, I booked a JCPenney commercial. And that was the first time that my parents were like, oh, wow, like this is like being an actor is something that you could actually make money at doing. And that was the first time that I think that they saw that. And I was like, okay. And then immediately 12-year-old me was like, I need to start taking my career seriously. So I was like, I need to drop out of like, I was in private school at the time. I was like, I need to drop out of school so I can focus on my training and like start auditioning for professional theater. So my parents listened to me. I was like,
Oh my
I know, crazy. But so I went to a studio in my hometown that did singing, acting, dancing, and I would spend most of my time there. And then when I was 16, um, I booked my first professional theater job. I did Miss Saigon in Atlanta, and that one was crazy. I got like, there was a real helicopter. Like, it was an insane first professional gig to get.
Easy.
So anyway, then after that, I kind of like worked regionally for a little bit. I'm giving you my whole life story, so sorry.
I need it. I love it.
But I worked regionally for a little bit after that. Like, I did a chorus line and South Pacific and things like that. But I was like convinced I wasn't going to go to college. Like, when I was homeschooled from like 7th grade until graduating high school. And I was like, I don't need school anymore. I'm going to book Broadway when I'm 18 years old. But
you were close. You weren't far off.
But as life does, like I wouldn't have been ready when I wanted to book it, like at 18. I still needed some growing up. And in doing all of those like regional contracts, I was like, started to see gaps in myself as like a person. I felt like I didn't have opinions about things that I should have opinions about, and like just a knowledge about the world around me aside from theater. I just felt like this music theater robot, and I started to see gaps in myself as like a performer. I noticed like, oh, I can't read sheet music. I can't do this kind of dancing. I can't do this kind of, So I put myself in community college to just kind of like learn about the world around me and in a low stakes environment. And then I did a production of South Pacific where I worked with a bunch of Elon professors. And then I was like, a year later, maybe, I was like I was about to graduate with my associates from community college. And I was thinking about going to university. And I called one of these professors, Dan Calloway is who I called. And I was like, hey, I remember you taught at the school called Elon. Like, how is that? And he was like, I love it. I think you'd really like it. And so I auditioned, and that's why I ended up going to Elon.
That's such a unique story. It's just crazy how life works.
Going through college, I felt like I got so much out of it because I knew the things that I wanted to get out of it, because I had been in the real world and had seen the kinds of things that I wanted to learn going in, as opposed to like, I'm fresh and I'm new and I'm here, which there's also so much value to that. But just the way that my life worked out and my journey, I felt like I got to like slot in those gaps of my knowledge, which was, I felt like, because college is expensive.
Yeah.
Tuition is expensive, and I felt like I really got to go in and look at it and be like, okay, what's going to be the most bang for my buck, basically.
Yeah.
I had a great time in college. Like, I got to like meet some of my best friends, and I live with my boyfriend who I met at college, and one of our best friends. We all live in the city together, and then our other best friend's about to move here, and life is good. So
that's like a dream. Everyone has their own dream life, and I feel like the way you're pursuing yours is very inspiring to the people around you.
And I also think that there's something to like getting somewhere, like it's not linear. Like the path to whatever your version of success is not something that's like, someone can like look back at your life and like trace it to be like, and then they did this and this and this and this. But like, it feels crazy when you're going forward, because you're like, I don't know what's next.
You mentioned you were homeschooled.
Yeah.
Were you working regionally while you were homeschooled?
I started working regionally post 16. So there wasn't a lot of overlap. There was like maybe 1 or 2 contracts that I did, but they were kind of during the summer. So I wasn't actively homeschooling. I kind of finished that chapter and graduated from high school and got like it was like, and it's the kind of homeschooling where like it was all online. Mm-hmm. So my parents weren't really a part of it. So it was like I finished it online. I got this diploma. They mailed it to me, and that was the end of high school.
What did you do on your free time? Were you like going to community theater? Were you playing sports?
I was enrolled is a dramatic term. I attended this studio in my hometown that was like triple threat training, quote unquote. So it was like singing, acting, dancing. So I would take like singing voice lessons every week. I would do like a lot of my time was taken up with dance classes, like ballet, tap, jazz, ballroom, the whole 9. And and then some acting classes. So I did like, that was what I did the majority of my young adolescent years.
Was there like a show that you did then that you like still hold on to now?
I did a production of Legally Blonde, and Legally Blonde is my favorite musical. I love it. And that was just like such a fun time. Like I remember that was the first time that I was being like put in the front formations of like dance numbers, and that was just like I had just turned like 13 or 14 or something like that, and I was like, whoa, like this is really happening. And yeah, I think that was a big one for me. My dad was like a stage manager when we did a production of Curtains, and it was like literally such a terrible experience because he didn't know how to stage manage and I didn't want him there, and we were just, you know, butting heads.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I've had a few productions and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was a part of that. But
Yeah.
I would go back to that moment anytime right now.
Right, of course.
I miss the only thing I really miss about being on stage, because I am so uncoordinated that it's problematic, is the fact that I miss the community. Like I miss having people that I've known all my life around at all times, and us just like having fun and being silly and not caring about what anyone else thought.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's, I think, part of the fun and magic of theater and why adults do it to this day, you know?
Yes. I need to hear about your college audition process, because the fact that you just called a professor was like, would I like this school? Like, I need to hear how your college audition process went after that.
Mine is actually kind of boring. If you think, like, I have so many friends that like auditioned at like 20 schools and did all the things and the unifieds and the things. I only auditioned at Elon because I had told myself that I either was going to go to Elon and get my BFA in music theater, or I was going to move to New York and kind of make my own curriculum here, which I'm so glad that I didn't do that. That would have been so expensive and so much more stressful with my life. I very fortunately got into Elon, and I was like working regionally still when I was auditioning for like putting together the pre-screens and the things. Do you know what Carowinds is?
I don't.
Carowinds is a theme park that's in it's on the border. It splits the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And I was working there like at the winter show. And I remember walking in and I got a call from Elon, and they were like, do you want to come to this school? And I was like, okay. So I got like early admission, and yeah. So anyway, it wasn't like crazy complicated. I pretty much auditioned at one school and thankfully got in. I don't know what I was going to do if I didn't.
What'd you sing? What was your audition song?
I sang two contrasting cuts. I did Goodnight My Someone from, I believe, The Music Man.
Yes.
And I did One Perfect Moment from Bring It On the Musical.
Wait, I love that song. It is like my anthem. But if I'm the most untalented person ever, but if I somehow like conjure up all this talent overnight, that would have been my audition song. I love that song.
It's a great song. It's a great like little cut of like I Want, and I felt like really connected to it in that moment in my life. And yeah, that's what I think.
That's like if I go to the Jimmys as a 21-year-old. That's a song I sing.
Yep. And I know so many Jimmy's kids.
You were a double major.
I started off as a double major when I started in school, and then I switched it to a minor.
Okay.
So I
feel crazy as a BFA.
It was a little crazy, but I had my credits from community college, so I was like able to just take the things that I wanted to take for the most part. So I majored in music theater and then minored in sociology.
How'd you pick sociology?
There was like this period of my life where I was really interested, and I still am interested in like marine life. And like, I think in another life, I was going to be a marine biologist. So I was so interested. Like, have you ever seen the documentary Blackfish?
Yes.
Yes. About orca whales.
Yes. Wait.
I'm obsessed with that documentary. And so there was a time in school where you took a semester to really learn about like one subject. for the whole semester you were focused, like every exercise and assignment had to do with this particular subject matter that you picked at the beginning. And I had picked animal captivity. So I picked like zoos and aquariums and like the ethics and morality of that. Anyway, all that to say, I became very interested in orcas and animals in general, especially in captivity and like their behavior more so. So I was like, oh, and then I read this book that it was like this person who was a marine mammal like behaviorist, and they had majored in sociology. Anyway, I was like, this would be cool to do. So I minored in it.
That's really interesting. Were you like a dolphin tail kind of girl?
I have seen it. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yes, I love any movie that has to do with like the sea. I love things like that. So
yeah. That's so cool. Whoa, that's so different. That's just like so different than what anyone has ever answered with.
Oh, thank you.
Not that I've ever asked anybody why they were a sociology minor, but
yeah.
I feel like I could see where they come together, but like on the surface, you're like, oh, sociology, like not marine biology.
Right. I thought marine biology would be a bit too much for me with the math and the science and stuff. So I was like, I'm more interested about the behavior anyway. And then it was cool because it was focused mostly on like human behavior. So I think that there's a little overlap with acting and, things like that.
That's so cool. So what shows did you do in college?
I controversially did not book a lot in college. I wasn't I was in, what did I do? Oh, I did 2 black box musicals. I also went to college like right at the beginning of COVID. So it was like this time where we were making things kind of online and recording. And so I only had like 2 years, I think, of like normal college. But my first year I booked, what's it called? Fugitive Songs, the song cycle. And I did that in like a black box, but we pre-recorded it and had masks and like the whole 9. And then my junior year, I guess it's like a little confusing because I graduated in 3 years instead of 4, but my middle year at Elon, I did this workshop production of like kind of this new show that my professor was working on. So I did that. So I didn't do any like main stage musicals when I was in school. Yeah.
I feel like that definitely could have trained you now because you work with such a small cast now with working with a smaller company.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very different vibe because I went from a really, really big musical, Back to the Future, to really, really small musical with maybe happy ending.
You booked Back to the Future while you were still in college.
Yeah.
What was the audition process like? Were you going back and forth to New York? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So August of my senior year, so my last year at Elon, the August before we like started school, I was just scrolling on playbill.com where they post like free, like listings of auditions and things. And I saw that Back to the Future was coming to Broadway and was having auditions. And this was kind of in that weird in between coming out of COVID into in-person auditions where the initial call was like virtual and a self-tape. And then if you got a call back, you would like advance in person kind of thing. So I saw that they posted an ECC, an equity chorus call, where they attached the link to the dance. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then I looked at the dates of the performance and the breakdown. And it was like, starts rehearsals May of 2023. And I was like, whoa, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, that would be really cool because I graduate in May 2023. That would be awesome to like book that and then move straight to the city. And that was like such a fleeting thought. I went to school early to film the dance, and the dance was for Gotta Start Somewhere. And I learned it, I filmed it, and I sent it off. And then about a week later, I noticed that my video wasn't getting watched, like didn't have any views on it. And I was like, dang, like I really worked hard on this. Like I really felt good about it. And so I had been in for the casting team that did Back to the Future like a bunch throughout just like random times in my career, in my life. And so I felt like comfortable enough emailing them. And I emailed them with my little video link, and I was like, hey guys, like I hear that you're doing Back to the Future the musical on Broadway. I would love to be considered. I've attached my video down below. Let me know if you need anything else, kind of vibes. And then I sent it off, and I totally forgot about it. And then about a month later, I got an audition appointment for Jennifer, for the girlfriend, is the track I ended up understudying. And then I kind of flew back and forth and drove back and forth from North Carolina to New York many a time. Like, I would audition kind of once a month from August until I didn't find out that I did my last audition for Back to the Future February 27th. So I was auditioning for many a month. And I would fly in, I would like take the red eye in the morning and from North Carolina, and then I would show up, I would do the audition, I would stay overnight, and then I'd fly back and do my classes for the week. And so that, I think in total, if you count all the times that I went in for them, if they asked me to like stay and sing or dance or do any other things, then those all total, I think I was in for them like 8 times or so.
Thank God.
So I went in a lot. They sent me a lot. And, you know, every time I went in to audition for them, I got more and more nervous because I was like, this feels like something that could happen. This feels like a reality that, you know, because it started, you know, getting smaller and smaller groups. And then my last audition was February 27th. And then March 7th of 2023, I was in dance class at Elon, and I came out, checked my phone, and I had an email from casting, and they were like, hey, can you give us a call? And I was like, ah! So I run into the next studio that's empty, and I call them back. I get voicemail, terrible feeling. And so I'm like, okay, well, I have to go to my next class. So I went to my next class, and it was like some big department meeting where it was like all these people singing. And I had my phone on my lap, and I was just like continuously looking at it. I wasn't looking at what we were doing that day. I was like looking at my phone, ready for it to ring. And then I saw that a New York area code called. So I ran out of class, like very dramatically. And I was in the hallway of our Center for the Arts. And they were like, Hannah, we would like to offer you an ensemble contract and Back to the Future the musical on Broadway. And I tried to keep it cool. I was like, much, like, who can I tell? Like, what are the logistics? Like, whatever. And then my boyfriend ran after me to film the whole thing, which is, I'm so glad he did that and grateful that he did that, because now I have the video, which is awesome. And then after I hung up, I like just collapsed and cried because I just was so overwhelmed. Like, it felt like such a big, long journey to get there. And the fact that like I knew that my dreams were coming true, and the fact that I knew that I was gonna make my Broadway debut and this thing that I had worked so hard for this whole, like, my whole senior year. And yeah, it was just like an amazing feeling. So yeah, I finished. And then from then on, like, my college time was like pretty chill because I was like, I have a job. In May, I finished my last final. I drove my car home. It just so happens that graduation day at Elon was the first day of rehearsal for Back to the Future. So I missed graduation. I did finish all my schoolwork. I like finished my last final. I drove my car home, dropped it off with my parents, had like a dinner together. And then the next morning, they sent me off on my, you know, one-way flight to New York. And I stepped foot in the apartment that we live in now. And it's, yeah. And then like literally, I think the next day I had a wig fitting, and then I started rehearsals for Back to the Future. It was wild. It was the most whirlwindy experience of my life.
That is incredible. When I do these, I obviously do like research, and I like these interviews. I like research the person before, and I came across a video of your graduation, and they announced your name, and your friends were like, "She's on Broadway."
It was such a sweet video.
Funny, yes. Like, that's just crazy. So I've seen the show 3 times.
Amazing.
I am dying to know, have you been in the DeLorean?
I have been, when we do press events, like for our opening gala, I got to sit in a DeLorean, not the one that we use on stage, but I got to sit in a DeLorean and like take pictures and things like that. And then when we did a performance on The View, I got to sit in that one, and that was cool.
That's sick. I want to go. I want to fly.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince our tech guy. I tried my whole time there to be like, if you ever need someone, just like while you're like practicing, I would love to be in it, but nah.
I just don't understand. I watched a video and it's like air. Like they blow air. I'm think.
I know I'm not with the show anymore, but I still like feel protective of like the magic. So I feel like I can't talk about it.
Yeah, no, right.
But I do think it's an incredible technical feat.
I don't understand how it goes upside down. And even if anyone was to explain it to me, I still would not understand.
It's wild.
I don't get it.
Yeah. No, I mean, all of these people coming from London and having like these amazing like big brains and being like, this is how it works. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing that happened on Broadway and is still happening.
Mm-hmm. And every time something that works, like I use something that works in my head, I go, it works. It works. I love that show. It's just so fun. If somebody was to come up to me who doesn't like seeing shows, doesn't like Broadway, come up to me and ask me what shows to see, the first one would be Back to the Future. I always am like, go see Back to the Future. Anyone will love it. It's so fun, so good, so adaptable.
I mean, the people there are just the best. And yeah, I mean, Back to the Future, like I feel so grateful for like the family that I got there, because I came like scared to New York, you know. I was like fresh out of school and like, okay, like I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know how to live in New York and I really don't know how to do Broadway. And all these people just like took me under their wing and just like loved me and like provided this space for me to grow and learn how to do Broadway and the best way that I knew how. You know, it was such a wonderful time, and I got to learn from so many amazing people. And yeah, I'm just grateful for everybody I met there.
So you were in the ensemble and you also were the understudy for Jennifer.
Yeah.
What were days like when you were on for Jennifer?
So it was interesting when I was on for Jennifer because they took some tracking from the West End production. So because Jennifer is only in the 80s, she is also in the ensemble. And because they had just kind of like grandfathered in this tracking that when I went in for Jennifer, I was also in for my ensemble track. So it was like a split track with myself, and it was wild. We initially we were trying to figure out like, oh, am I going to learn all of Mika Sakata is who plays Jennifer full time. And I was like, oh, am I going to learn all of Mika's track, or am I going to, you know, anyway, ended up every time I went on, or the other girl that covered Jennifer, Tori, was also an onstage Jennifer cover, would just do like the Jennifer stuff and then half, you know, part of our ensemble track. And then one of our amazing swings would come in and fill like the gaps of our other ensemble stuff, if that makes sense. But anyway, when I would go on for Jennifer, it was really, really wonderful. Like, it was so fun. And it was the first time I'd ever sung a solo on Broadway. And that felt amazing and like so surreal. And I got to do it. Like, I made my debut, and I remember looking at Casey, and he was like the look in his eyes were like, I got you. And it was just like such an amazing, cool feeling. And yeah, I'm just really, really, and then I got to do it with like JJ, and I got to do it a few times, and I got to do my put in with Daryl, and I got to do half of a show with Aaron. And yeah, I'm just like so grateful that I got to sing with all these people. And yeah.
I remember seeing a video, but you had the put in and you went in that day. They're like, you're gonna do it again, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
How did it feel knowing that you had it? You knew that you had it under your belt before going on.
Good. It always feels good as a cover to do something twice, to be like, oh, I messed that up. I know that I can fix it on the next time around, and, you know, work on it. I did not know when I did my put in that day that I was going to make my debut that night. So that was like a fun little surprise, but it was also just so cool because then I was like, okay, great. I can implement the notes that they just gave me and just like rip the Band-Aid off.
I just applaud like standbys, understudies, swings, because everybody has a different process and everybody thinks about it differently. It's so crazy how there's so many ways to get to one point so successfully. In the audience, it's so seamless to us, but for you guys, you're like, oh my God, like this is like, you're like freaking out.
My favorite advice I got from, I got so many nuggets of wisdom when I was at Back to the Future because like I was such a baby that like I got to learn from so many people, and I have this like notes app, and it's like things I've learned, and anytime I would learn something from someone at Back to the Future, I would like jot it down. And I have one from Jonalyn, who's like, she is amazing, and like Broadway legacy, like she's amazing. And she was like telling me, she was like, yeah, being an understudy is wild because it's like it's like playing like Mario Kart where you're like above ground and you're looking at everything and you're looking at the car going like this. And then like as soon as you go on, you're like suddenly in the car and your view changes and you're like, what's going on? Like that's what it feels like. I was like, that's so true. That's exactly what it feels like.
You've been with Back to the Future since the beginning. What was it like adapting such a beloved film like Back to the Future to the stage? Were there any specific challenges in reimagining such iconic scenes that everybody knows and loves?
I mean, it was amazing to be in the room with like the creators of the movie. Like when I booked the show, Bob Gale, the writer of Back to the Future, called me and was like, congratulations, can't wait to see you in the show. You know, he's like so sweet and amazing. And then getting to be in the room with like Alan Silvestri and Glenn Ballard and, you know, all these people that made this iconic movie, and then watch them realize that like they see their dream realized on Broadway, and like for me to get to be a part of it was just like the coolest feeling ever. They just had like these amazing insights into all the characters and got to be a part of the process, like building it, you know, with our director John Rando and our choreographer Chris Bailey, and just it was just like such a joyous room. Everyone there was so happy to be there, like from cast to creative team to our crew, and it was just like such a fun building from like the beginning.
I am a huge fan of movie musicals, and I think Beetlejuice really paved the way for the movies that can be on stage. Like it was Beetlejuice, King Kong, now this. I just can't wait to see what comes next.
What is possible on stage is like so wildly different than, you know, what was possible a few years ago. And thanks to like technology and like seeing the technological feat that is maybe happy ending as well. Like that is something that is also, there's like technology that we're using in the show that's like has never been used on Broadway before, and it's insane.
Now I have some fun questions about Back to the Future. So, if you had a DeLorean, what point in Broadway history would you travel to?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think it would be so special to go to like the opening night of like Phantom of the Opera. Something like that, where it's just like this iconic piece of theater. And like Michael said the other night, like when we had our first preview, he was like, there is a point in every new show's history where there is like the first audience to ever see it and be there for it. And I think that that is something that's so sacred and special. And I feel like just thinking about theater history, I think there's something really magical about like the spectacle of Phantom, and being able to like be in that room feels amazing. Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure if it's like quite that, but like that vibe of being like the first audience member, you know, in that first like batch of people to get to see like Sunday in the Park or like
Ren.
Yeah, like Cats or Les Mis or like these iconic, or like Lion King, you know, like, or Wicked would be awesome. Like it's so cool too to talk to like one of our cast members in Maybe Happy Ending's name is Marcus, and he was in the original cast of Wicked, and that's amazing to me. Like it's just like part of like theater history, you know? Anyway, so I think that's where I would go back if I had a DeLorean and had to go back into theater history.
If Marty McFly could time travel to any Broadway musical currently on Broadway, what do you think he would obsess over?
Well, I'm biased, but I think he would like maybe Happy Ending. I think that there's something like really beautiful about it. And like, as different as the shows are, like, they are both at their core, I think, about love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like Marty may be a little resistant to it at first, but I think he'd be dropped in. I think he'd be like so invested about these like cool futuristic things like in the helper box, and I think that would be cool.
No, I totally agree with that answer. I think he is so interested in futurism and the technological aspect of life, and I think he would totally be there.
Yeah, I think Doc specifically would like maybe Happy Ending.
Yes. Are there any Easter eggs or hidden details in the production that fans of the original movie should look out for?
The weatherman's voice in when Marty's like writing the letter about like dear Doc, like da da da, is Bob Gale's voice, the writer of Back to the Future.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like a fun little Easter egg, a little fact.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
All right, we now have to talk about maybe Happy Ending because I am simply obsessed. It's one of the best things I've seen in years for so many reasons, and I can't wait to chat about it.
Let's chat.
So you booked this while you were still in Back to the Future.
Yes.
You announced it. I remember you announcing it. It was I remember the TikTok of like it was so funny.
Little Wally.
It was so good. How was the rehearsal process different from working with such a big cast to now a smaller cast? And you weren't like on like when you were making your tech TikToks, you were like, yeah, I can now go to the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, this has been such a wildly different process, and like I'm just so grateful to like have had access to two like original Broadway casts in such a different way, you know. I auditioned for Maybe Happy Ending when I was still in Back to the Future. A friend of mine had heard about the show and was like, hey, like at that point, Helen and Darren had already been announced for it. And they were like, you should ask if they're looking for coverage. Like, you'd be great. And I was like, okay. So I like emailed my agents and I was like, I'm very curious about the show. Like, could I get an audition? They sent me the script. I spent an entire afternoon before Back to the Future reading Maybe Happy Ending script and like some of the demos for the songs. And I fell in love with the show. Just like me on my couch alone. Like it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful story. And it's such like a simple storytelling, like, but it's also beautiful and like tackles these complex concepts in such a beautiful way. I fell in love with the show. I sent in like one self-tape for it, and then I didn't think I got it. And then I went to a dance class one day and my agents were like, I had asked about Maybe Happy Ending. I was like, hey, I'm sure they moved on, but like, could you just get feedback from me? Because like, I'm just curious what way they went. Like, I just really felt good about that project, whatever. And then my agent was like, funny story. They were just asking about you and your outs and like when you could leave Back to the Future. And anyways, long story short, that following Monday, they called me and they were like, you got the job, which is already such a different experience than like my Back to the Future audition process, which was like 8 auditions flying back and forth. Maybe Happy Ending was like 1 video. Like, I think in the video where I'm like, they tell me the news, I was like, are you sure? Because like, they don't know me. They don't know if I'm crazy. Like, so yeah. Anyway, so like that kind of has continued where it's like very different experiences, but also such amazing experiences, like holding both of them really close to my heart, which is really cool. I think Back to the Future was such a big company and like such a big family vibe. And I was like always around people. And I was also in the ensemble. Mm-hmm. And the ensemble of Back to the Future doesn't really leave the stage. We have like a bunch of like quick changes and things like that, but it's just big community vibes. And then Maybe Happy Ending, as you saw, is only 4 on-stage cast members, 4 off-stage cast members. And so it's like a smaller fam vibe, but it's also like majority Asian American cast, which is also something that's so beautiful and cool that that's happening on Broadway, and that's like not the part of the story that we're talking about necessarily. Like, it's just something that is such a special gift that I think that I've been given and get to be involved in. That being said, it's like I'm still learning how to it's a big adjustment, and I love this show, and it's like so cool, and I'm still learning how to be a standby. I've never done that before. I've never been an offstage cover, so I'm learning what works for me, and how best I can set myself up for success to go on eventually.
Yes. So you're working with the iconic director Michael Arden.
Yeah.
Is there anything you have learned about yourself as a person or as an actor after working so closely with him?
God, I mean, he's just such a good director. Like, even like watching him work with like Darren and Helen is just, I feel like I'm like taking a master class where he's just like drops little nuggets of wisdom where I'm like, whoa. A couple weeks ago when we were still in the studio, he was talking about like sometimes like flubbing up a line or like forgetting a line when you're in rehearsal is like a good thing, because it means that you're like starting to think. Like, it means that you're not focused on the lines anymore. You're like thinking. But also I really, really respect like how much of an actor's director he is, and like how much he's able to like hold all. I mean, like, directors on Broadway just have like a really, really hard job because they have to hold all departments, together, and like along with stage management, and all work as like this huge, amazing team, and have this understanding of how technically complicated the set is, and but also really wanting to push the story forward. Anyway, I feel like that's a really long answer, but I feel like I learned something from him every day. It's just like really, really wonderful.
And it's also so interesting because he has acting background as well.
Yeah.
So he understands like your guys' position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something you're most excited for audiences to see?
I'm excited for audiences to see, one, like a new original musical on Broadway. It's just like, from my understanding, like it's such a hard thing to like get on Broadway, like anyway, with any musical, but to get like a new work that nobody's heard of, that like you are unsure of like how the IP, there's no IP to like depend on. Like, Back to the Future had its fans already built into the show because of the movie, but like this show is like all new, so people are getting to come and experience it for the first time in like this place. I think what's so special about theater is that it exists in this time, in this space, like, and we're all in the same room together experiencing it. It's awesome. So I'm excited for people to experience that, and like experience our amazing writers' beautiful writing, like the music and the script. I'm excited for people to come see our amazing cast, like honestly everything. But like, and the set, like everything is just like so amazing.
I feel like nothing was looked over when creating this new musical.
Yeah, I think so too. It feels like from being in rehearsals and coming into the theater, like this whole time, it feels like every department, this is like their baby. Like, this is the thing that they like care so much about, and they love, and they want it to succeed and thrive. And it feels like everyone's handling it with such precious, like kitty gloves of like, we want this thing to do well and be, so it's really cool. It feels like everybody's baby.
Mm-hmm. And something that I will hold on to forever is Helen J. Shen's comedic timing.
She's amazing.
Impeccable.
Yeah.
There was no like dry eye from laugh crying in the audience.
No, she's a genius. Like, it's truly, I mean, I think that's what's something that I'm like so grateful about getting to be in the show, is like every single person in every single department is a genius. Like, is truly just like so at the top of their game. Like, it is wild to watch and to be a part of.
Are you a Gleek?
I grew up watching Glee a little bit. I was a little like young, and so my mom would like watch the episodes before to make sure that like they were appropriate for me to watch, and then I would watch them. But yes, I did know who Darren Criss was before doing the show.
This was my first time seeing Darren Criss on stage live, so I was like, oh my God. But then Helen J. Shen comes out and I'm like, oh my God, new star. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
they're both amazing at what they do, but they're also both amazingly kind and wonderful people, and like amazing people to be in a room with.
Since the show has a lot of heart, despite being set in a robotic world, are there any scenes that you think will particularly resonate with the audiences on human level?
I think, without spoiling anything,
Yeah.
I think what is so special about this show is that it presents such complicated human concepts like grief and love and loss in a way that doesn't feel like these three things are very scary, like love and loss and grief. Like they're very scary human things. But I think what's special about this show is that it doesn't present it in a scary way. Like it feels to me very similar to how like a Pixar movie kind of handles those kinds of complicated, scary topics. Similar to like how like just like cartoons and like Studio Ghibli films, like things like that, where it's like big, scary things, but in like a beautiful like package that's not like banging you over the head with it. It's like this is this thing. Like it's like, here, come in, have some tea. Like we're gonna, like I think that's what's so beautiful about this show. And so that's what I'm really excited for people to come in and experience.
And in the best way possible. Like honestly, sitting there, it felt like an animated film being put live on stage.
Mm.
And I've never felt an experience like that before, which made it so new within its new originality.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique show. It's not based off of anything, which I think is like something that's so cool to be in the room to experience,
And have there been any moments when you're like listening off stage that the audience laughs at, that you're like, we weren't expecting laughter at these moments?
Yeah, like little things here and there. It changes every night too, because the show, while we're in previews, is changing, and the writers are changing it as we go, because based off of audience participation. And it's really cool. It's like a really cool process, because like previews for Back to the Future, not much changed, because they had this blueprint of the West End production that they were like, we know this works, we want to do it here on Broadway. Yes. But this show is like, we're still figuring it out as we go, which is exciting.
If Oliver and Claire could time travel like Marty McFly, where do you think they would go?
Well, I think Oliver would go back in time.
Yes.
Because he loves, vintage things that are more analog. So I think he would go back to like the 30s or something, like go meet Gil Bruntley, like, you know what I mean? I think he would do that. And then Claire, I think, would time travel into the future. I think she would like want to see what is in store for humankind and helper bot kind and that sort of thing.
So we have to do the rapid fire question.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
So, what's your favorite audition song?
Oh, I sing this pop song called Slow Motion by Karina Pazian. I've sung it for like literally like 75% of the auditions I've had.
What's your go-to snack when you're backstage during a show?
Go-to snack? I feel like I love Flavor Blasted Goldfish.
Good choice. Good choice. Everyone says Sour Patch. You're the first one to say something savory.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so I love like a savory snack.
What's a dream role that you could never see yourself playing?
Oh, this is hard, because like I didn't really grow up with a dream role, and like I had shows that I wanted to be in, but I didn't have a dream role. I was talking to Helen the other day about this, about like if I was if I was a couple years younger than I am now and like seeing maybe Happy Ending, Claire would be my dream role, which is like so cool that I'm like getting to be a part of it. But all of that to say that like I didn't know that this was going to be my dream role. So I don't know. I think that like I think that it may be still yet to be written. There are other dream roles in my life. I don't know.
No, that's such a unique answer. Like, you're in your dream role that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
So cool. If you could revive any show and star in it, what would it be and what role would you play?
Revive any show. Well, I'm dying for a Legally Blonde revival, and I would love to be Brooke Wyndham. Yeah.
I think it's coming. It's coming to the Kennedy Center. They could transfer.
Yeah, I would love it.
Transferred spam a lot. They
Yeah.
could transfer us. What's your go-to warm-up song?
For like a yoga warm-up, I'll do this song called I Am Light by India Ari. And it's just like I'm a big affirmations girly, so I love doing that. Like for like a stretching, cooling, that kind of softer vibe. And then I feel like my go-to like warm-up song is like, I don't know, like Who's That Boy by Demi Lovato, or like a Little Mix song, or like I really like Couch, like that kind of thing.
What's a musical theater song that's always stuck in your head?
Recently, it's The Life I Never Led from Sister Act. I don't know why that's been stuck in my head so much, but it's there.
Who is the coolest person you've ever met backstage?
Ah, gosh. Who's the coolest person I've ever met backstage? Okay, this is the one that's stumping me. Let me think. I feel like all the days blend together, so I'm like, okay. Kristen Chenoweth came backstage.
I was just gonna say she was just there. Like,
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Abby Lee Miller came to Back to the Future one time. That was cool. Because I grew up watching Dance Moms. Yeah. I'm gonna settle with those two answers. I feel like it's another one that's eluding me, but I don't know.
I feel like if that was me with those two answers, I honestly would have said the same thing too.
Yeah.
If you could switch any role with anyone in any of the shows that you have done, what role are you playing?
I would love to play George. George McFly. I think it's so fun. Like, it's such a fun role, and it's like just so physical, and like every time I watch it, I would watch it from like, my perspective on stage, and I would be like, wow, I feel like that would be so fun to like fully like embody a character. And then like Evan, who is currently playing him now, I would love to see Evan in my ensemble track. Like, I think if we switch, that would be hilarious, because he's also like 6'4" or something. Like, he's a very tall man, and I'm like 5'2", so I think that would be also hilarious.
Yeah, that would be really funny. What's the hardest song you've ever had to sing on stage?
I feel like proportionately, I also did High School Musical when I was in like middle school, and I had stage fright still. Like, I was still so nervous, and I had to sing like the what's Gabriella's song about like.
Oh, I know, this is like my favorite song.
The one she's like walking through the school.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, that one where she's like walking through the school.
That one.
Yes. The one where
like, there was me too.
Yes, thank you. Oh my God. It was never gonna come to me. But she's like, that one, I think, like proportionally to how nervous I was, that one was hard, because it was just like my friends were coming from school, and I was just feeling like exposed and nervous. So anyway.
If you could sing a duet with anyone in the whole entire world, who are you singing with, and what are you singing?
The whole entire world. Oh my God.
Whole entire world.
I'm overwhelmed. I was just talking to, okay, I guess I have two answers. I was just talking to JJ Neiman about, we were talking about like shows that we loved and shows we wanted to be in and whatever. And I think it would be so fun to do Waitress with JJ, with me as Dawn and him as Augie. Like,
that would be so good.
I think it would be so cute, and so like I think doing a little duet with him like that, because we got to sing Jennifer and Marty stuff, and I think that would be fun. And then I never get to sing with my boyfriend, so like we have done such like different types of shows for so long that I think it would be fun. We've been like working on a duet list recently of things that we want to sing together.
I fear you might have won the rapid fire questions.
I won! Oh my God!
You are a star. Wow. This was so fun.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you for asking me to do this. This was such a fun time.
Thank you so much for being here. It was so great hearing about your journey from beginning to end. And I can't wait to see what's coming in the future.